Here we go. Welcome, welcome. Happy Wednesday, everybody. My webcam is clearly not working, even though Oh, ha. I know what it is. Let's exit out of that one. Orc-Tober, what's up, Mert? I did it again. I done did it again. The stupid NVIDIA broadcast overtook my webcam. So I need to come in here and do boom, boom. Let's try this. Properties. Bam! There it is. Hello. Now this should this should work okay. Now this should work okay. Let's kick back over here. Bum 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 bum. There it is. Look at that. See, we got it all sorted. We got it figured out. So I think I have rustled Jimmy's on the newest YouTube video. More not like hate comments, but like more riled up people than I was really expecting, but hey, it's all good. It's all good, man. Yes, today we are celebrating the Orc-Tober project from the Discord server. A lot of people put some orc art up there, and a few people didn't request review or anything, so we're just going to look at it and kind of ooh and ah. But then others have requested some feedback, so we will gladly give it. But real stoked to kind of look at the art and stuff. And before we get off of here, I will announce the next kind of Discord thing. I don't know if it's going to be like a monthly deal. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we have about a month to do this little project. Like, we could do monthly deals. I'm fine with that. It's just after, you know, if we do it for a year and a half, I'm going to run out of things to, you know, run out of ideas to give to the server. So that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to focus on everyone else's art and kind of take a look-see on how everyone's doing. Rick, yeah. It's my first time in years. No, that's fine, brother. I understand. I totally understand. I'm ironically kind of in one right now, but I'm in the middle of a whole bunch of like client work, so I can't afford to be in an art slump. But it is what it is, you know. Yeah, so how are we going to do this? Let's kick over. So my, you know, the program that we use to do all this chat stuff right here and the chat stuff at the bottom and all the, you know, Discord commands and all that stuff for chat just apparently stopped working yesterday and then continued to not work today. So I did a full fresh reinstall, tried to get all this stuff set up, which is why we started a little bit later than I wanted to. But I think this one's only going to be a few hours anyway, maybe an hour and a half-ish, because I do have to roll up one of my deadlines. But that should give us plenty of time to be able to dig in. To look at some of these critique sessions if, you know, the artist requested one. We can kind of take a look at some useful tips and things like that. But the really cool thing is we've had a myriad, a real kind of scope of work submitted. And it's kind of ranging from everything from portraits to action poses to really cool, just really cool stuff. What I am going to do, because the old clip thing to clip features and stuff is not working right now because I had to reinstall all this stuff, I'm going to take physical timestamps. That way we can on the video on demand, we can put some timestamps up. That way if the artist joins in and they want to get their critique session or their showcase session, they can just jump right to it. Okay. Rear says hello. Really hate the video. Yeah, it's not a great feeling. Tears have been shed lately. I'll put it that way on my end. 'Cause yeah, it's rough out there for OGs, you know. But hey, the new YouTube video's doing numbers, for better or for worse. I think it got mentioned somewhere, and a lot of people are coming in. But it's cool. I'm seeing all kinds of different perspectives on the whole affinity, Canva, that stuff. And I mean, it's stuff that I did think about a little bit whenever I was making the video. But I was like, you know, I haven't done a super opinionated video in a while, so let's try it. And, you know, it brings out other opinions, which is good. And I like that because it's a healthy debate. And like I said on a lot of the replies and stuff, I will be happy to be wrong. I will be happy. I will be so ecstatic if there really is something that's for free. You just kind of make a makeshift account on a Canva thing with like an old email you never use or something. But then you get the full suite and they don't end up, you know, nickel and diming or doing AI stuff. Or if it's all on the up and up and really Affinity is coming out and they're Canva saying, hey, we bought Affinity, but we think everyone needs to have the ability to create. And that's what this is actually all about. And God bless. Like, we'll, you know, I'll be very happy to eat crow, and I'll publicly do it too. You know what I mean? But just, I would say keep your guard up. That's all. But no, more people creating stuff, the better. And I will always swear by that. I'm a big believer in that. And yeah, anything that makes that possible and doable for more people is, you know, thumbs up for me. But let's move on over here. Let's move on over. Booyaka. I have our good pure ref right here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artists that we're going to be looking at. If anyone else like is in chat or the Discord or whatever, and you submitted something and I missed it, I did like triple checks. I'm pretty sure I got everybody that wanted something there, you know. Unless it's AI, that's right. What kind of crow? Ooh, yeah, what kind of, I don't know, like the Brandon Lee crow, right? That'd be the one. No, but what would that be if you have to eat crow? Is that like a slang term for like slop or goop or something? You know what I mean? Like, oh, here the pigs are just eating all the in the little truffle thing, or the what do they call it? The little trench thing they eat out of. The Norse kind. Oh, is it like? I don't know why I think of the Norse crows with like 3 eyes. Is that right? Or am I completely mixing up like Game of Thrones with Norse mythology, which is probably, I mean, I'm an idiot, so that checks out. So yes, so what we're going to do, I did have the artist's name here, and then I did have if they wanted feedback, if they specifically said, hey, feedback, welcome, I have some ideas, or I need some ideas, how can I push this? We're going to give that type of feedback. But if the artist did not request it, this is a very important lesson, everybody. If the artist did not request it, we are not going to give feedback, okay? It's just a respect thing. It's, you know, even though if I would have opinions or whatever on, you know, how I think they could solve a problem, we might dabble into it, but it's not a constructive criticism type of thing, because if it's not asked, then we will not give. You know what I mean? Like, it's a consent thing. Wife's just texting stuff. There's some cool like local events happening at the library that we can take the kiddos to. So I'm looking at all that. Roast me. Oh, those are ravens. See, ravens and crows. I know. So ravens are bigger, correct? Anyway, this is just stalling before we get to the to the feedback stuff. But on any of these, what I'm going to do, and the nice thing about PureRef is I can literally click on a piece and like copy, and then, you know, we come on over into Photoshop, new, from clipboard, I think. Would that be from clipboard? Reset? Is there not a thing to... maybe I'm getting used to, yeah, maybe I'm getting used to Clip Studio, which we could definitely use for this. New. Oh, there we go. Okay. I was like, I thought I could do that here, but okay. So yes, we're going to do new from clipboard here. And then you go to edit, paste, boom. So that way we can have the artist's stuff and right here. So let's get started. Let me get this timestamp down. Just Control V. Oh, maybe, yeah, that's probably true. How long have we been going? We have been going, I'm going to put the 18-minute mark. We're going to start with our good friend, your friend and mine from the Discord server, Brent. Great artist, really leveling up lately. I will say he is working his butt off. And while I'm in the middle of the sentence, let me actually move my microphone over here. That way we can actually face the art more clearly. There we go. I promise I'll get this stuff set up before too long. I'll figure out this whole streaming thing, right? So, Brent has been working his butt off. Absolutely been leveling up like crazy. But like any good artist, he feels not stagnant, but like he wants to figure more of it out. Do you know what I mean? And I completely know what that feels like. So this is going to be part feedback session on the orc art, but also feedback specifically for Brent of like, you're crushing it. Like just the journey and like the stepping stone part of what is happening here. And we can talk about this through the art as well. Because I would even say between these three pieces, Brent has leveled up. And that's kind of the goal of what Orc-Tober was, right? It's like, here's a fun thing. We're all kind of fans of sci-fi, fantasy art, illustrative stuff. So what's a good exercise that we can do that has a little bit of stakes? Because, you know, we're showing it off. We're showing it. Hell, it's on the video now. You know, it's on the Discord. Other artists get to see it. You get some feedback if you request it. So, like, there are stakes, but it's a relatively safe, big safety net sort of thing. And I think these are why I'm going to enjoy doing more of these Discord just activities, events, if you will. Just because I think that's a great way to go. And all of us are going to level up together in different ways and maybe in different directions. But the intent is like, put our best foot forward. We're going to level up, you know. Yeah, Brent's crushing it on the dedication and the perseverance and really on the skills. So I'll tell you what, man, these three are the best stuff he's posted, to me at least, on the server. I know he had the landscape with the tower as well, which is really, really good. Yeah, you're crushing it. All of the stuff that you're learning and going through right now is paying off. It really is. So let's take a look at the three pieces. And I believe I have these in order. This was the first piece that Brent put on here. And then the second piece was right here. And I know he did some work in progress pieces for this one, but I posted up the final here. And then the third one we have here. I believe the first and the third are master studies, while the second one is more imaginative. He may have used reference or certain poses or whatever, but I think the composition side of things was much more kind of, let's freewheel it, let's figure this out. And it's brave. It's hard to do. I will say 100 to 1, working from a reference as far as a master study is much less vulnerable than working from imagination. Like, imagination stuff is just tough through and through. There's nowhere to hide. You know what I mean? But let's get into this. So this first piece, and I'm going to also pull up Discord, because that way, if there was something specific said, like, hey, can you give me advice on this or this or this? It's something I am going to look at, okay? So let me scroll up here. Okay, so yes, let me... I have so many windows open right now. Oh my goodness. Okay, filling it done. I could have done an overpaint and a final render, but as a master study, I got what I wanted from it. Yes, Master studies do not have to be one-to-one perfect representations. In fact, that might burn you out more than if you were to just do a dabble or like a cross-section or, you know, the focal points. Let's see, first time using thick paint and a little abstraction. There's subtle color variation techniques there from the still life stream. I sort of like it. You should more than sort of like it. You should very like it. I know that's not real English, but Wes, please consider this my first submission for the stream. Is this where I post it? The good thing is doing it gave me an idea for another original work and different look. My orcs will stay mean. It's a challenging one. Might not be done in time. If you want to cite the artist, it's Maximiliano Moretto. His is better. But you know what? I think you crushed it here. I think this is a dang good piece and something that you should be very proud of, because I can see the energy in it. I can see using especially stuff like this. This is the stuff right here. See how all of these subtle things are mingling together, and that could be, you know, the painting software. It could be Rebel or Critter or whatever you might be using for the thicker paint. But this, a lot of people are scared of muddy colors. And I am very much not scared of them. In fact, I embrace them, and I think that is where a lot of the real beauty lies within these type of paintings. And as far as the shape language and stuff, I think this works really well. Now, it is a master study, so I mean, what I could do is try to find, I should have maybe tried to find the master study that you did, like to look at that and be like, oh, be sure to look here and here. But I'm going to treat this one as just its own thing, almost as if this was not a master study and this was something Brent just painted. Okay, so one thing when using the thick paint brushes, which I love dearly and clearly, I love thick paint brushes. They are a way to get visual interest. Now, in my opinion, this piece works best when the orc remains the focal point. So, what I would actually do, and this is a little bit, it feels dangerous whenever you do it this way, especially if it's a master study and you're trying to go more one-on-one with the piece as you see it. I love the rendering on the shoulders and the trapezius muscle and kind of going into the ear. If you were to introduce these thick impasto brush strokes in places like the neck, maybe in this shadow here, that really, they work really well here. You already have the craggy, I can't remember what this is called, but like where a mustache grows. You already have the lines, you already have the detail. You can have your impasto brushes be that detail. That's where some of the magic but behind like an Anders Zorn or a John Singer Sargent comes from, is they found a way to utilize thick brushwork as the detail or the textile or the material of the thing. So like you could use thick brush strokes on the skin where folds are while keeping, you know, the cheekbones or something like that relatively smooth. It gives you that visual interest while maintaining the painterly feel. Now, I'm as guilty as anybody of loving to do the abstract, thick brushwork on the background. I think it looks good, and I think this looks good. Where it gets a little fishy is whenever the paint strokes here start becoming the interest. I never want it to like override what the point of the painting is. And it's a balance. It's totally a balance. And it's one I haven't mastered yet. I'm still learning like where to put that emphasis, where to put that sort of look. But overall, okay, perfect. Rachel will absolutely. So I will say, if we moved some of the impasto work here and move it over, like, you have the exact right idea here. You see how this is broken up? You have this kind of fade in. You're leading the viewer's eye into the orc. Absolutely. And this is where you can really start getting into this beautiful mud, right? And it looks like you've started it, but I would say go whole hog on it. Really, really go whole hog. Now, I will say what I think might work, and this is me not looking at the master study, so I don't know what it's quote-unquote supposed to look like. But what I would do is either bring in the impasto stuff and start kind of mixing it in here, or I would go the other direction and start really getting razor sharp around places you want your detail, because that's going to also solve the problem. And I say problem, it's not really a problem, but like the issue you might run into of if nice thick brushwork is taking control or attention away from your focal point, or what you can perceive to be your focal point. So what I would do, I would come in here and I'm just going to color pick. I think the colors you have here are great. I think it works well. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of quote unquote render out some details a little bit. Okay. We're just going to render this out. I'm going to come in here, and you've already done it too, which is good. In fact, I would say here in the eyes is where you can bring in your blackest black. And you're going to see something really interesting when we do that. This now, because you had pretty dark blacks here in the shadow just on accident, because the way those brush engines work, if they have raised impasto, they create their own shadow. So you actually had beforehand your darkest value in the background near the impasto, which the eye loves extremes. We love to look at the shiny thing, or or if something's very dark, or we go to the extreme ends of the value spectrum very quickly. So that's why it's always a nice treat whenever you put your darkest dark next to your lightest light as your main focal point. And we can absolutely do that here in this painting. So if we have pure black here, if we get the pure white and just a little dabble here. Now what this also does is this allows you to readjust your mind's eye on your value scale. So now you can even bring some of these shadows a little darker if you wanted to, or some of the highlights a little brighter, because now you've established where your beginning and your end is. You know what I mean? Oh, Brent, what's up, brother? Perfect timing. So what we have here, if we want to bring in this dark, and let's use this black as kind of the thing, right? I'm going to come in. I'm just going to pure black this. And I know I am a stickler on values, and I usually tell people never use pure black or pure white. Because what it's going to do is it starts adjusting that value scale. It starts manipulating your value range. And then if you have an extreme light and an extreme dark, now everything else becomes a mid-tone. And that can be very tricky to balance. Right? But what you're going to see here, perfect example. See how this brushstroke and the shadow of the brushstroke is actually darker than the thing in front of it. What I would do is here is where I would actually get my darker darks and start introducing them here. Because that's going to do a few things for you. That is going to, once again, allow you to kind of recombobulate your mind's eye as far as values, right? And then I'll actually grab this and sort of smooth this out. And what you're going to see is now these values are kind of similar. This background and this background, you see that? And you see how we have that little bit of light here? This now gives you some opportunities. So if we want to go the painterly route, what I would say is we can actually, at this point in time, use this as a lost edge. We can grab ourselves, you know, I'll just grab a random, let's do plastic wrap, sure. If we're now kind of meeting in the middle for the midtones, let me just sort of introduce this. And I know Rebel and Art Rage and stuff would be a better way to do this, but let me do this. I'm also going to do maybe a little bit of like the Alla Prima brush here. And this is one option, because you can go this way to where it's all kind of now, you see what I mean? Now this value's pretty close, so we can also lose that edge, right? We're going to keep this differentiator to kind of give us an angle to follow. But then if you kind of come out, do you see how now your thick brushwork background and your orc foreground are now starting to become one and the same? And like I can really come in with the mixer brush here, and then we can let me grab like this one. No, let me grab plastic wrap. That's fine. Start doing something like this. This is one way to do it. And see how it kind of starts blending into itself. But then you still have these nice differentiators of where some maybe highlights are, that you're still getting your cutout. You're still getting your silhouette. So we can try it that way. Or you can really embrace this difference and kick up this rim light over here. So I can kind of show you what that looks like too. Let's just do this one. We'll do main one. So we're going to grab this and maybe we shift. Actually, it's nice. There's a green. There's almost a nice green balance here. So instead of having this warm light right here, let's move over to the greens so we can have kind of this cool light. And we're not going to make it super, super saturated. We're just going to come over here. Do a little bit of like an edge kiss. You know what I mean? Something like this. And remember, this is a form. So while we have that edge light right here, you can then get a soft round or an airbrush of some sort and start kind of bringing in. So let's do the airbrush. You can start bringing in some of that light to wrap around this form. You see what I mean? And then you're really pulling away from the background. So now it's very distinct. But having it to where the value was very close, but then there was actually more textile like detail around, was kind of, you know, you wanted to know where to look. because I kept looking at the beautiful background. And then the orc, I love the rendering, kind of these smooth transitions right here where the shadow kind of goes over the muscle. But then I was like, well, you know, this should be our star of the show right here, in my opinion. So you can either make it to where the rest of the painting is flowing in to reveal your focal point, or the more illustrative, graphic, kind of shape design language side says, really push the difference. If you have that impasto background, really give yourself a fine line rim light, bring it in, warp it around, and it'll make it pop. It makes it stand out over top of it. So yeah, the background might be cool, but this is more important. Therefore, it is closer. Bam. Here's my highlight. Do you know what I mean? Was I correct in choosing a blue tone in the grays for shadows to the orange? I would say sure. Yeah. I mean, the nice thing is, remember, we've always talked about if the values are right, the hue doesn't matter. The color doesn't matter as much. So, I mean, you could have this be hot pink if you wanted to. It might look weird because hot pink doesn't live in the shadows, or you know what I mean? Like, doesn't really, it'd be way more vibrant than what you're going for. But yeah, you stayed in a grounded earth tone kind of way. Even if you went towards the blues, they were desaturated blues. So therefore you're actually painting in gray, which always works. Painting in gray always works. Forever and ever. It will always work. It will never steer you wrong. And you can always push or pull more if you need that more saturation later down the line. So if you start introducing it and it's desaturated at first and you like the look of it, crank that up. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, the worst that happens is what? Like, you paint over it again and it's more gray this time? Great. Like, there's no harm, no foul. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think overall this is a super strong one. And, you know, to go back on that idea of, you know, what would I do as far as the focal points and stuff? Like, we have the pointed ear right here. So let's say we came in here and then we also did, like, I know this might not be the shape of what the tooth was for the master study, or what the original looked like. But like, if you carve this away, then we're going to bring back that highlight because I did like that quite a bit. And we have this kind of in. And then here, this one is a tricky one because I can tell that this is foreshortened. This is basically a tip like this, but pointed at us. So it's going to be rounded. However, I think it may help to make it a little more pointed anyway. And then where you can really show the tilt is up here on the top. You see how this highlight kind of comes down like this? This is where we can do a highlight and then bring it down in the middle, almost like a piece of candy corn. You know how the top of candy corn has that white and then it comes down? If you tilt it around, it's going to have all different shapes. But you can still have that relatively sharp top. And you blast it with that highlight. And then what you can do, if you really want to pronounce this, you can actually darken up the area behind it. Because, you know, the whole light onto dark onto light onto dark. And see, that pushes the rest of the jaw behind. Because now this is coming out to catch the light. So yeah, I hope this kind of answers that. And that way, you know, you're introducing a darker black your shadows get a little bit darker. But then you can even see it now is if we zoom out, see we're just adding a little bit more dark here. And there's a wise sage wisdom to not use black for the shadows, which I agree with. But I did want to show you what the look is after the fact. You can sprinkle in a nice little bit of black as a treat. Little ingredient list, as it were. Then you can even bring that dark into the recesses, the ambient occlusion here. So see what I mean? It gives you a little more wiggle room. Gives you a little more space that you can sort of play with. And what's nice about that is you can introduce some of these blacks in the craggy scars. You see what I mean? Really sell that idea that Duder's been through it. He has been through a mess. Let's outline that nose there. And see, it's little stuff. It's little stuff like this. Because see, if I were to just hide this, it still looks good. It still looks proper. It still looks correct. And then whenever you do this, now there's more dynamic. Ironically, by adding the black, there are more dynamics in the orc than there are in the rest of the picture. See what I mean? So there's like a before and an after. It's just literally it's the last 1% of like going in and doing the little bits. And I understand after working on a piece for hours beyond hours beyond hours, you just want that thing done. You know what I mean? But I would say in that situation, you can safely like close it for the day, and then the next time you open it, you don't have to redo everything. Just do that last little 1%. Go in, maybe add a little black, maybe add a little white, find a place, do a thing, do a little bit of carve here, and then sign it, and you're done. You know what I mean? Ivan, what's up, brother? So, yeah, that's the deal. And like I said, I haven't seen the original. I purposely did not go and like look at the original and compare and contrast. Because while there is value in that, I think it's more valuable, and this kind of leads us into your second one, when you're working a little more from imagination. You have the template, you have kind of the foundation there. Now, how can you make it your painting? And I think doing that, kind of flexing both sides of the muscle of your brain of like, how well can I transfer what I see down to paper, which is the true master study. Like, okay, am I getting all the brush strokes right? Are the measurements correct? Things like that. But then flip that switch, and once you have that and it's kind of locked in, play around with it. Don't be adhered to the, be like, well, if this were my painting, what would I do? And then make it your painting, So that's a good way to go. But overall, fantastic work. Let me come over here. I'm gonna save some stuff here. And I'm going to save my edits out and post them up on the Discord, okay? So I'm going to make it smallest. Okay, cool. You got it right there. So well done. Number one. Brent, let's bring over number two. Copy. So let me bring up the notes here. All right. So, and Brent brings up, clicked on the right thing, but okay. I went darker to cover the many faults. The render is a little sloppy, but I think it fits the look. Also, I want to play with more saturated look. Please consider this my second and final piece, even though you did another one. I would appreciate some tips on how to improve it. I want to have a lie down now. Yeah. So I can tell with this one, you totally pushed yourself. And like, yeah, you can tell there's a lot going on. But it still reads because we clearly know, you know, what we're looking at. We know it's an orc. We know it's like a, what do they call it? It starts with a W. I was gonna say a warlock, but I don't think that's a thing. Yeah, I'm having an old man brain fart right now. But yeah, you have this like really vicious creature, and then you have a lot happening in the background. So you have, looks like maybe like photo ref, which is awesome. It's a great way to do it. Yeah, kind of that Lord of the Rings look, and then adding on like big giant walking in there. You know, you got the weapons pointing out. Very reminiscent of kind of the Warhammer, the old world, sort of. A warg, that's it. Yeah, I thought it was a longer word than that, but maybe, I mean, that's probably exactly what I'm thinking of. Now, my one thing would be, if this is a hero pose, or like what we call kind of a spotlight. If this is a spotlight piece, these two have equal bearing in interest. Now, is the orc the main character, or is the warg the main? I mean, are they literally a unit? They don't go anywhere without one another, like they're best buds on the battlefield? Based on how we use composition, it can change the story, right? Trying to think. Yeah, I really do like the use of the soldiers here as a framing device. My worry is, it seems like two different pieces. And that's fine. That's totally fine. What I would say is we could play with this idea that the warg is behind the orc, right? And we could also use that to tie into the rest of the composition. So the first thing I would do, and this is just me freeballing it, I would change, because the warg sort of disappears behind the orc, but we don't know how or why. As the viewer, we just see kind of, that's why it's almost like the two chess pieces facing apart from each other. You know what I mean? So it's like, are they enemies? Are they together? Like they're facing different ways, and it's really dramatic and cool. But if it was to integrate all of this into the one cohesive deal, well, you got this really cool color motif down here. You got the reds and the oranges and stuff. And I can see you started to try to introduce that here, but we can really push this. So here's what I would do. I know he has the big muscly back. I would do this. Just gonna do this real quick. I'm going to pick a color from the background here. Actually, I'm going to get this lighter one too. So my idea is we are going to kind of gradient the background the same way you have it gradiented already and introduce that in to the warg here. So now the viewer has a through line to connect all of the pieces of this puzzle, because we had an orc, we had a warg, and we had a background battle. And all three of them work. But how does it work together? How does it work as the full image? And I would say you can even do something like this. Introduce that. Cody, what's up, brother? So this also does a few other things. This actually separates the warg from the orc, but it combines the warg with the background. So now, as before, we have both very, very kind of sharp contrast, big shapes, which is great, because it's definitely readable. But they felt separate than the stuff around it. But then if you start introducing the elements that you've already worked so hard to put in, and like you can even do this kind of atmospheric perspective in the shadows of the orc as well. So let me show you what that looks like. Because you have the arm here and the sword. But I would worry that the detail from the arms and kind of this detail of the sword kind of get lost in the shuffle, just because these values match these values exactly. And that can work. It definitely can work. But because you have this nice depth to the idea, we should try to introduce that depth into the picture. So if I have my airbrush still selected, I'm going to grab kind of a lighter version. Let's do something like this. Then we can even grab this and kind of add in here. Get some green. Now let's get this right here. I'm going to get my main brush. And I'm going to think, okay, if his belt kind of wraps right here because his back is right here, we are going to have a little bit of something. Maybe right here, right? Armin. Introduce some of that here. Really stick those shapes out. And then here. And then like here, I notice this right down here. If this is part of the warg, or is this maybe the orc's leg? He's putting his leg out like on a rock. You know what I mean? But that's the decision you can make. It doesn't have to be decided the moment you make the character. You can look at how the rest of your composition's working and be like, well, you know, it might make more sense if it's basically the extension of the warg's back. And this allows us to kind of use these darks. I'm going to come in here and differentiate. Okay, so it is the warg. So that's what I mean. Like the stuff is clear. Like I was kind of able to differentiate. Like, oh, this was probably just the way the warg's back came down. So good work. You did the thing. And then you could say, okay, well, now these are blended in too much, so you can't even see. Well, you already have some lights established here. So then we can kind of do the same thing and make more lights right here. Bring those in. You know, if you have any cloud brushes or anything like that, you're good to go. You can kind of do that, right? So now we have even more depth. Now we have even more. And we just introduced a little bit of lightness. And it's really starting to stack everything together. You're able to differentiate Orc up front, Warg right behind him, taking care of business, battle happening in the back. And it, you know, it's a good look. It's a good look. But overall, yeah. I mean, the design stuff's cool. I could tell you really went for it on the Orc's face. Kind of that differentiation. The teeth look great. I mean, body's looking good. The belt, I love the hit of light up top. Same thing for the skull. You can see where, you know, light's hitting, everything like that. The sword design is good too. I can see how it's pretty complex. So for this one, I might actually either simplify the sword design a little bit or make sure that every edge that is pointing up is getting that light, because then you're matching the reality you've given to the belt. Does that make sense? Like if you, all of storytelling, and I know Brent is also a writer. He's a writer of fiction. Every story is it's a series of rules, right? And like the whole idea of a bad guy or a villain or whatever is they break the rules. Like I'm thinking of this in a very like professional wrestling bad guy, good guy psychology 101 thing. So they break the rules. But in order to break those rules, you have to establish them first. So if we've established that we have a hint of light hitting up here, hitting up top, we want to follow that rule on anything that it could apply to. Does that make sense? The other way of saying this, and I think I've said it before, is if it faces the light, it gets the light. So if you have that rule, if you have the rule of where is my light coming from, make sure that that's where it always comes from. Because it's like, okay, when with here, we can actually go up a little bit right here. We hit that, that comes back over, that comes back over, this one comes back over. That's gonna grab the light. We're gonna also bring some light right here, right here. You can see I added a little bit to that orb. So then we have this. I would actually, we can add some craggies to it, but I might actually darken this part a little bit. That way we can get a hit of light right here. Does that make sense? And the way I kind of decided where it was is I noticed if this was a straight line, if this was a straight line and we just looked at it, we have a highlight a little right of center. If this is kind of the center line, if this was a straight line, this is the center. We have it a little bit right and a little bit of right of where it started. So at the start of the line, you have a highlight. Then you do like the middle line, and then to the right of that, you also have a highlight. So we can actually do that on this blade as well. So if we have, see what I mean, this little bit, and we can even kind of up this highlight a little more to really show it, right? Then we can do the same thing here. It's the start of that line and and past the halfway point of this one. Once again, we've established the rule, and it could be any rule that you see as a pattern in your painting. If you follow that rule, it's going to go well. Okay. So yeah, no, overall, great work. I can tell, yeah, you worked your butt off on this one, brother. Let me go ahead and save this one. Perfect. To smallest file size. That way Discord doesn't yell at me. All right, beautiful, but well done. Absolutely well done. Like I said, we can tell. Oh, it's saving. Come on. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. There it is. All right. You can tell you've been working your butt off, you know. Then we have piece number 3 from Brent. In my opinion, this is the best thing you have posted on the Discord. This is the best thing you've posted. Period. The reason why I think this is you knew what you needed to get out of this and you got it. Let me bring up the Discord, that way if I miss any okay. Make sure I cover stuff. Okay. So much more I wanted to do with this one, but I ran out of time. Please consider this my third and final orc submission. I just wanted to use only the airbrush as an experiment. It needs more work. I'm not sure what to do next. The reference is a sculptor lit heavily from above, and I struggled with the background, so opted for a plain illustrative board look. It is what it is, but I sort of like it. So the same thing we said about your first one. Instead of sort of liking it, you should very liking it. You should be liking this one a whole bunch. Because you gave away, in the description that you gave me, why this works so well. Why do you think it works so well? There's a study reason, and then there's an execution reason. The study reason is because it has very harsh light. If you have harsh light, you have harsh shadows, which makes good form. We can clearly see what we're looking at. That's how all of that works. The biggest nightmare for a painter is an overcast, rainy day, because there's nothing to grab onto. Everything's just itself. There might be a shadow here or there, but everything's kind of flat. It's dull, it's dreary. That's why you don't get very emotional about it. But we do get emotional about big, bright sunsets, big dynamic night skies that have crazy cloud. Like, we love the contrast, right? So if you have a heavy light and a heavy bit of shadow, you're in for a good time. Now, the execution side of things, you only used the airbrush. That's all you need. You can make any painting in the world with a hard round brush. It might take forever, and I don't recommend it. But yes. So, yeah, you're saying it felt natural. I can tell. I can tell it felt natural. And here's the thing. I would actually make that your starting point. I would highly recommend working with an airbrush for a majority of your piece. Okay? Simply because if it's the thing that gives you a little bit of wiggle room, as far as like your transitions between color variants or values, or a lot of people will say, oh no, you need to avoid the airbrush because it's lazy and it's, you know, you're going to learn bad habits and stuff. No, I don't. I personally do not think that's true. I do not think that is valid advice, because I think you can make and understand the good stuff faster with an airbrush. Why do you think many painters use airbrushes? Because it's smooth. It's a smooth way to work. You're not locked in. You don't make the quote unquote wrong call. There's room. There's wiggle room. Things transfer naturally. And that should be the goal of any painting, in my opinion. Now, would I say never use anything but an airbrush? No. But you can do a vast majority of all of your painting with an airbrush. In fact, James Gurney, who's a guy who kind of knows a thing or two about painting, says that a vast majority of all of the edges in your painting should be soft, not lost edges. Lost edges is too murky. Everything kind of blends together and it doesn't make sense. So a soft edge is still an edge. There is still edges here. There are still edges between these areas. I can see clear differentiations between your areas, but they are softer, which allows you to then come inside and work with sharper edges. So like right here, I think you're at a perfect point. What I would say, just to really kind of drive this home, I would come in and clean up these edges. Not all of them, just a few. Because what you're going to start noticing is as we add some of these harder edges, and like I said, not everywhere, but just some places, what you're going to see, it's going to make what you already have here completely sing. It's going to just like, it's going to make the whole thing just pop. So like this, so what I'm doing here, I'm just finding edges that I can get away with them being sharp. And I'm going to go make them sharp. And like I said, it's not every edge. It's not every edge. It's the same way, you know how we like to all kind of on the server think about our impasto brushwork? Like, where am I going to put it? I'm just going to sprinkle it in and I'm just going to do a little bit. You don't want to be overbearing. Do that same thing with razor sharp edges. See, and you've already had some like right along here, which is great because the closer we get to our focal point, the more density of hard, sharp edges you want. Let's say here, here, do that. And actually, we can even bring in remember, the eyeball is a ball, so we can color this, shade this the way if it was a 3D sphere. Okay. Legacy of Kain, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I know it sounds silly, but there's no notes for this one. No notes. Like, I could come in here and I could play around all day. What you have here is an absolute stunner. Like, you should be extremely proud of this one. Because, yeah, the only thing I might come in with some, like, hard round brush, do some stuff. Yeah, bring in some impasto. Why not? Like, you're not gonna mess it up. The structure's too good. The what you have on the palette, what you have on the canvas is already where it needs to be. It's just now you get to tinker. Now you get to kind of twiddle and move and shift and yeah. I mean, literally, okay, so yeah, Ueda sculpture, and it's cool because sculptors are great people to learn from. Because they have to be confident in where they're putting detail. They have to be. That's the whole point, because light is being shown on a thing. So if you want to talk about really playing with form and light and shadow, study sculptors, because that's the only thing they care about. How does the light catch this nostril? Does it look right? You know what I mean? Like, they are the masters, the grand masters at form. And you can tell that the study, I think it went off without a hitch. You know what I mean? You can also bring in some solid shapes for these highlights. This is basically, this is Riot Games. Like, if you were to get hired at Riot Games, this is how they do their highlights. You know what I mean? Like, you go look at any League of Legends splash art. That's how it's done. You know what I mean? So, yes, literally, yeah, that one's done. Like, great work. There's nothing. there's nothing else to talk about, really. It's like, it's on point. You know what I mean? But yeah, you should be very pleased with that one. Smallest here. Yes, you'll find that that's usually the case. If it takes you the least amount of time, it's probably the one that, like, oh, that's the winner. I think I said it on either the last stream or the stream before. It's like, if you give your client 3 things and 2 of them you worked really hard on and the third one was just like, I guess this might be an idea, I'm going to cushion it, make the other 2 look better, you know, they're going to pick the third one every time. Every time. But Brent, my man, well done. Outstanding work. Yeah, stunner. So everyone, round of applause for Brent, crushing it. Dude, you're leveling up all the freaking time on the server. I know it's a tough journey. It is a tough, being a creative person is a tough way of life. It really is. And people haha and poo-poo that or whatever, but like, it's true. You're always in your own head. You're always battling whatever demons. I get it. Just know that not only are you on the right track, but like, you're 5 miles further than what you think you are. So just keep it. Keep going. Find the stuff that interests you. Keep painting it. 6 months from now, you're going to be a whole different artist. We won't even have to give you advice. In fact, we didn't even need to give you advice, really. You saw in the progression just on the Orc-Tober pieces. The comfort with the materials is there. It's getting better and better. You're finding out what you like, which is the most important thing, because that deals with taste. And taste is the one thing, I'm actually thinking about making a YouTube video about this. Taste is the thing that will save your life as a creative person. Taste. It's more important than anything else. Find what you like, find how you like to do it, and then do that thing. Just do it. That's it. But outstanding work, man. Now, moving on over to Rachel, knocking it out. Oh my goodness. Traditional art in this economy? My goodness. I just want to, and I know you want feedback. I'm just going to marvel and ogle for a minute, okay? Yeah, this is great. Guys, I don't know, you know, some people here may not have a lot of experience with traditional mediums. So not only do you have to do like the composition stuff and the design stuff and proportion and all that stuff that you would with digital art, you have to deal with materials. And materials kind of suck because you can have an idea for how something needs to be finished. And literally, I mean finish as far as like the way you would finish a piece of furniture, like varnish, like finishing, like detailing a car, that type of finishing. And then the materials don't let you do it, whether it's the weight of the board or the canvas that you have, maybe wasn't primed, maybe the solvent, isn't, you know, working, you know, I need to do the timestamp real quick. I'm gonna do 1 hour. Let's do 16 minutes. Shell. Okay. You're gonna be fighting the traditional mediums. You know, separate the two characters better. She asked for that in a DM. Perfect. Okay, great. So overall, I want to say she can still not write in chat. Okay, yeah, no worries. Rachel, you have crushed it when it comes with consistency. Guys, I don't know if you know how hard this is. And like pencil for scale, which I think is a great touch. So this thing's a banger, right? This is incredibly difficult. You can try it with a Q-tip, with Kleenex. You can try it with the different types of vine charcoal, with this to try to get the smooth. Like, holy crap. This is hard to do. Having the little bits of rim light, like, this makes me want to bring out my sketchbook. It's you know what I mean? Like, there is an energy to this work, both of these, that is just it. This is the reason you get into art in the first place, man. Like, this is banging. You're telling me you took a pencil? You telling me a shrimp fried this rice? You telling me that somebody took a pencil and they made this edge right here? You kidding me? Look at that. Come on. Like, ridiculous. Ridiculous. Okay. So to actually give, so Rachel requested how to differentiate and kind of give a little bit more separation to the two characters here. And that, let's see, I'm going to answer it in just kind of the, hey, I have my digital tools open, but I also want to answer it in the traditional art way. I want to answer it in the way of like, I would use this thing and do this here and do this. I'm going to try that. It is going to be a little different since I don't have, you know, the piece in front of me, or I don't have the materials in front of me like that, but we're going to try it. Okay. All right. So let me copy this. So really this one, no notes. Great. You could go maybe a little darker if you have heavier, like a HB pencil or something, or like, I can't remember how the numbers work. I think the higher the number, the denser or coarser the material. So if you go with an 8 or something, get the real blacks in there, like black, like almost not quite ink, but like close. Do that for your ambient occlusion. Places where the shadows really fall, like this tooth right here, maybe like right here. You know, maybe right here a little bit. You know, between the teeth, maybe right where the neck is coming in with the pauldron stuff here. But overall, no, like, no notes on this one. This one's a stunner. This would get you, like, if you were to use this for a portfolio to get you into art school, you'd get in. It has all of the understanding here of what you would need, especially stuff like this ring. Great. Same thing here. Differentiator. Only thing is, I might either extend this up a little bit, or bring it like maybe at a different slight curve, because you kind of want to break up this tangent. You see this tangent right here where this turns into the shadow of this. I mean, I kind of like it because since you have this highlight differentiates the two shapes. But do you see what I mean? Where kind of the wave of this turns into the shadow of this, which is kind of true. That is what would happen. But if you're just looking from like an image perspective, you might look at it, because see how here there's a differentiating, you have this kind of coming out here. So I would say what you could do is either bring in this line a little bit from the actual face line, or you can maybe kind of what you did here, this kind of mid-tone, bring that mid-tone in. Maybe it sinks in the cheekbones a little bit more, but also it gives you that nice change to where this shadow here could be darker than the more subtle face shadow behind it. Just a, you know, if we're spitballing. But that's like minute, you know what I mean? So this one right here, I think I already copied this, but let's move here. What I would do, come in and let me, okay. That way I kind of look at it fairly contrast oriented. And line it up. Oh, and I believe it because, well, and literally that's what I just did, is whenever you get light, unless you have like a crazy 5 light box setup, you're never going to get the values as they look. Every piece of traditional art looks better in person than it does through photograph. Even if you get professional photos of it done, even if it's like gallery level stuff, like even then, to really see it. But that's why I was so blown away, because like to have everything this even, that is not, that ain't easy. That don't come overnight. So that's a good point to bring up though. So if this kind of changes the dynamics of let's do that. So we get a little something closer, maybe. Oh, B's are bold, H's are highlights. Ah. So, what you could do here to differentiate the two characters, because I think things like this, you see the spike, the tooth, great, because this is breaking up the darks from behind with the lights up front. Okay, same thing here. You could, in fact, this is where we're going to get into that area of like light on top of dark, on top of light, on top of dark, on top of light. And this was something you would do after what you already have. So I wouldn't worry about this step while you're making the image. I would consider what we're about to do a finishing touch. Because what I would do, let me go ahead and get, actually, let me get, where am I? Drawing pad. Okay. Let's just get a pencil. Okay. May look a little weird, but I'm going to make a new layer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to follow these shapes. And I know this isn't really fair because we can go way more contrast heavy on digital space than we can on traditional media, especially whenever you already have it established. It's like, I don't know if you guys have ever tried working charcoal into charcoal. Not easy. And it doesn't really change all that much because the density of the material, once it breaks apart across your surface, you're basically putting a hat on a hat. At a certain point, there's no difference. Like, you could throw stuff at it all day and it's not going to make a difference. So I'm going to try my best to keep this as like regulated as possible. I would see what shape is the hair. Like I said, since I'm not looking at any sort of master study or anything like that, I might be getting some of the composition stuff wrong. Because I can tell Rachel already understands proportion and like transferring stuff over. So it's like I might be messing with some of the actual structure. But I do think it's the thought that counts. Let me make it a little less intense. So we have that. So what I'm doing right here is I am silhouetting. I am coming in and I am making sure that orc in front remains darker around the edge. Pretty much this entire way. That's a little too bad. But you've done so much great work on this rendering that I don't want to flub that at all. You know what I mean? I don't want to mess with that structure. So I'm just slightly lightening this dark. Kind of smooth out that transition right here. Here we work here. So that is, this isn't quite a tangent, but it looks a little odd. And that's my doing. So I'll show you how I'm going to fix that. I'm going to lighten this up right down here as well. Because the most important thing to me is the silhouette of the hair coming down. We have this. This. Something like this. And then same here. This is where things get fun, but also kind of tricky. So I love the fact that these spikes, the teeth on the shoulder pauldron, do a cast shadow onto, is this Duratan? Can't remember the names of my orcs. At least my Warcraft orcs. So I love the fact that it does a cast shadow. What I would go for, or actually wait. How many rows? Okay, so this is cast shadow. I was about to say, am I mistaken? And there's 2 rows of teeth, and these are in the shadow while these are in the highlights. But I believe just from the structure of this pauldron mimicking, that we just have the 1 row on the shoulder, right? So my personal piece of advice also relates to how we did this hair right here. I would make sure that the silhouette of the pauldron reads first. And what that means, what must reference for this? Oh, okay, perfect. Well, even great work. So the fact that it reminded me of, you know what I mean, means your design sense is on the level that you could make a Warcraft orc. Like, you know what I mean? So, well freaking done. It's just a testament to the skill. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to slightly lighten that up a little bit. And then we can slightly darken. Oh, that's a little more than slight, but. And like I said, this is kind of an extreme example, and it's not quite fair because I can get much darker with a digital brush than Rachel, or anyone for that matter, would get with a traditional. Just because, yeah, once you're stacking charcoal onto charcoal and graphite onto graphite, at a certain point you get a diminishing return. Nothing is going to get darker or, you know. So, let's do this. That. Once again, that, let me get in this a little bit. Because remember, we want the shoulder piece to stick out forward, more forward than what we have behind it. So essentially kind of what we did on Brent's picture with the warg and the orc, where we got the background and we brought in that kind of atmospheric fog look. That's kind of how I would separate these, is I would kind of fog up around the area where you would want the silhouette line. And then the same thing here. Even if it breaks the idea of like what the shadows are and how dark some of the shadows are some places, if it helps the readability, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth taking the artistic liberty and the license. Because technically, this background orc is further back. So there is more air. There are more air particles between what we have in front and what we have behind, even if they're right next to each other. So you can play with that. I've seen some illustrators where, you know, they have one character just standing, and if one person's foot is behind them, I think Hardy Fowler is a big one. He does atmospheric perspective on everything. If like they're tilted this way or like facing a different direction, or maybe their arm is back here, he will almost gray out this back arm as like atmospheric perspective. Like this is further back, therefore more air density is here. But it works because you're working with scale, like how we talked about rules. If you establish the rule, everything on this plane is this value, everything on this plane is this value, everything on this plane is this value, and you stick to it, whenever you break that rule, it's more apparent. So like I would grab this and like arm is perfect here. And then you could even, because this is going to be skin, right? And then I would like blur it out a little bit, you know, kind of smudge it a little to like really bring that highlight. You have that light on top of dark. You know what I mean? We can even like that. Light. Dark. Differentiators here. See? Okay. So, and then we can also do the same thing over here. We have this dark right here. We can really darken out this outline a little, while we also lighten up everything outside of it. That way there's less detail right around here. Basically, you would be taking almost an airbrush immediately surrounding the silhouette and getting rid of any detail that would catch the eye in such a way. And even this, you can even like use this light from here and kind of like break it up a little bit like this, right? We can have something like this. Because remember, what we're selling is the foreground orc's silhouette more than anything else. So, let's take a look. Oh, I heard a old follow. Thank you, Ocean Soul. Segura, thank you so much for the follow. So since we have this right here, I mean, you've already done incredible work on the poses, on the structure of it. I think it is really cool to have them back to back. It's a very tricky thing to do, simply because, and here's another thing. We haven't even talked about this. If this was in color, you could use different colors. Like, let's say the back orc was green and the foreground orc is orange. Well, there you go. That answers all of it. You just color key it, and that's your contrast. So really, when we talk about separation, we're talking about contrast, and like value contrast, and what that looks like. Since we're working in, sorry, I'm opening up my stream stuff here. Okay, I forgot I didn't have a thing open. Let me. Damn, cool. Okay. But if we're talking about differentiation and like pulling and pushing, that's all contrast. How does this thing up front correlate and relate to the thing behind it? So having that be more of a graphical differentiator works really well. So we have this, and that is how I would approach it. It's, to me, it's a little bit easier to see. You can even come in and like smudge this out right where it's right close to the silhouette. You know, you can get rid of anything that's taking control over the silhouette. Like that. Because you can still tell that this is textured, but now the texture isn't fighting for your visual clarity against there. You know what I mean? It's like, I love the cast shadow, but because you're already working so dark on things like the hair and the arms, it might make it hard to differentiate where does the actual structure end and the shadow begin. So I think going a more shape-based might help with that. Yeah, it's not necessarily as dynamic, but see what I mean? You can still see the cast shadow, and we could still see maybe some cast shadow over here, but it's just going to be tricky. You're going to have a little bit more, you know, do you want to make this lighter so you can make this a little darker around the silhouette? Or do you want to do it the other way around? Do you want to make this real dark? That way it's darker than what we have here. So there's still a contrast. So like you could bring in these nice highlight beads of the hair and introduce some right here to almost work like a rim light to differentiate that. But no, I mean, overall, no notes. Like, it's a great piece. You know what I mean? Like, it's a stunner. Yeah, these are absolutely portfolio ready, in my opinion. So, yes, if you have any other questions or anything, Rachel, I will be more than happy to answer them on Discord. I know you can't be here in chat or be able to like respond in chat, but overall, just stunning stuff. Whenever I saw him post it up, I was like, what the, who knew that, you know, there's actual artists on this Discord. What are we doing? Unbelievable. No, but stellar work. Just wonderful, wonderful work all the way around. We're gonna save this out. Gonna do do smallest. Cool. Save that. So, everybody, huge round of applause to Rachel. Outstanding work. Just I was waiting for somebody to catch it. But yeah, absolutely. Just great work. Great work all around. But yes, big round of applause for Rachel. Incredible. Love to have you on the server. You know, just great stuff. So we are going to move on to who we got next? We got one Mr. Ivan right here. You get timestamp ready. Boom, 43. 30. All right. So, Mr. Ivan, let me go ahead and close out of Rachel's beautiful piece. Ivan, my man. Heck yeah. Let's do it to it. All right. So, loving the dynamicism of the pose. Love it. Like, looks great. It is great. Your proportions are on point. I do like the stylized, you know, reminds me of a Hearthstone card. It reminds me, not that you don't. So like, and you've nailed some very tricky things, and I want to give you accolades because you've done something here that honestly I have kind of a tough time with too. Cammy, welcome. But it was still learning. Hey, but I will tell you something. There is a thing in this piece that I chase after. And you kind of, I bet you'll say, oh, I didn't even mean to, I did it on accident or whatever. But this works 10 times out of 10, no matter what you're working on, no matter what project it's for, if it's personal, if it's client work. We just discussed in Rachel's how, you know, some artists like Hardy Fowler, or I know Marco Bucci does this too, they'll add the atmospheric perspective, right? Another thing that artists do, and in this type, I'm thinking more of like the Richard Andersons, you know, Flap Trap, or you have like, let's see, who would be like a Jamie Jones. This suggestive bit with the background sword and the hand and the arm foreshortened, don't touch this. This is as perfect as you can put, like, because it is getting away from the focus of the viewer, so it doesn't need to be rendered. Say it again. If it's out of focus, you don't have to render it. You just don't. The human eye can focus on one thing at a time. You can see the thing and some stuff kind of around it. We call it the book test. Go open a book, look at a word in the middle of the page, and without moving your eyeballs, how many other words can you read around it? Maybe a few in every direction, but not more than 2 or 3. So if our main idea is here, muscle-bound duder, raging, doing his thing, this ain't important. You know? Yeah, it's a great pose. It works extraordinarily well. Really, and I know this is a quick sketch, so you still got more work to do, so I will just give you advice on like how I would push forward to make this as strong as you want it to be. The one thing I would actually fix, and I don't use the term lightly, that I would fix, and you'll learn this through repetition, you'll learn this through studies. The human body is goofy as hell. When we have the pose like this, and he's hunched over, we are now tilting our arm up this way, which you have. The shoulders and the delts you have your middle delt right here. I don't talk about anatomy a lot because I actually don't think it's super important, but for here, this will better sell the idea. You have your mid delt right here. This is the muscle that joins and kind of goes and seats itself in between the two heads of the bicep, because you have the short head, which is, or you actually have your bicep, and then you have your tricep, and that mid delt focus is there. Then you have your front delt and your rear delt, right? Your deltoids, your boulder shoulders. If you're big and buff and brr, like that's what gets you that look. And like all orcs kind of have boulder shoulders. Those they're jacked. You know what I'm saying? Jacked. So you have basically your front delt here and your rear delt here. So far, so good. I would give a little more clarity to the bicep and tricep differentiation. But this is a perfect lead-in for your forearm. So I would just say, really what I would do is I would move this over here to make room for a bicep and the tricep to lock into the elbow, to then open the forearm to up here, to go over here. Do you see what I mean? It's a small thing. And if we want to do a speed run of this fix, I will show you in like 2 brushstrokes how this will change the way you see the arm, and you'll be like, oh, I get it. Take this, which is basically your front delt, because it's flared out, and your front delt is kind of wingspanning a little bit. Here are your shoulders. Right? Front delt, you have that coming over here. You have this. Get rid of that point, because what you need is this to feed in to your biceps before you jut out with your forearms. Same thing here. This, your shoulders are on top of the rest of the deal. So you have this. Like you can even use that. And then here, you see what I mean? So now this is your elbow. You have a little bit of your tricep here, but because it is extended out, gun show real quick. It is extended out. You're not going to get the full like clarity. So it's going to be just kind of a strip, kind of how we have here, right? Because you're not like flexing, like it's not here. But whenever you come out here, it slims it down. It tenses it up. Any of your push movements are going to be working your triceps. Any of your pull movements are going to be working your biceps. As you pull stuff towards you, that's why I like bicep curls. You bring them up. But because the arm is out, you have the long form of your tricep stretching. And it is flexed, but it's not so huge that it it's not going to be bigger than your shoulders. Your shoulders have 3 heads. Your tricep also has 3 heads. But these muscles, like per capita, are smaller. They're just smaller muscles. So learning kind of the hierarchy of which muscle does what and when. Let's see, we got this, we can bring that in. that. You know what I mean? And you can play around with it. You can play around with how that arm is situated. But then, you know, it gives you some wiggle room. You have your highlights already established. So you can still use those highlights and like really get down to the nitty gritty, which, you know, you have and you should, because that's dope. And even this, I think, if we think cannonball shoulders, I would actually probably move this a little bit to give us that more rounded appearance for what that arm's doing. And then the only other thing I can think of, genuinely the only other thing, is you can come in and like focal point stuff. Get a sharper brush, go in, render it, go to town. But you can keep, literally you can keep this bottom part here with the skulls and the kind of the skirt. Keep that exactly how it is. You can maybe start coming and rendering up a little more around these muscles, because this is where our eye is going to look. This whole area, if I were to say there's a focal point on this one, focal point would be this. This is where you want that power to be, right? So you could definitely do the face. The face is the most front-facing feature in this piece because he is leaning. So you could do maybe your most detail here, and then as you start coming this way, this is pretty rendered, and then you start getting more impressionistic, and it helps with that speed too. No proper reference for the pose and how the muscles behave. Yeah, no, it looked great. Like everyone was saying in the stream, like this is a banger. Like you posted it, and I was like, oh dang, like you know, that's cooking, you know. And I love the fact that the ponytail is actually following some momentum. It's kind of up a little bit because it is like flowing. Yeah. I mean, that's it. Yeah. Just keep it going. You know, like I would say keep it going. You know, this could even, if we want him to be real jacked, what we could honestly do is we can come here even come around more. So it's like how, like this is almost like Incredible Hulk-ish. You know what I mean? Like how big is this dude's freaking shoulders? But you can play around with that. Like you can do a lot of that. Yeah. He's been doing some Arnold presses. He's been, so yeah, however you wanted to go through. And you know, there's like, how does the pec connect with the upper tissue of the, like, there's a lot of that stuff. Like whenever you have like bench press shoulder, what does that mean? And if it's your front delt and then that actually goes to your chest and then that's connected to the, you can get into that type of stuff all day. But I would say just overall, the dynamics of the shapes and the energy of it is spot on. Spot on. So yeah, I will say, let me go ahead, let me save this one out. But really, that's it, man. Like, crushed it, you know? So we got that right there. Everybody, huge round of applause for Ivan, man. Crushing it. Just coming in being like, oh, it's just a sketch. Little deal I cooked up. And it's like, all right, I see you. All right, so next up, we have our man Mert. Hell yeah. All right, let me copy this, New clipboard. Bam. Cool. Let me timestamp this one. Will be 1:57. All right. Mert, yeah, right on time. Right on time. So Mert, we got some craziness happening here. By the way, cloud brushes get a bad rap. I dig them. I think they're pretty good. This type of cloud density is awesome. You have a very clear separation between your background and your subject. Like, there is no denying what the focal point of this is. Oh, the boots and the shorts from, these look... They do look familiar. I don't know. I do not know. Rick's gonna spoil it. He's gonna give it all away. But this is a gnarly, gnarly weapon right here, man. Some Skyrim stuff. Orcish boots. I don't know, man. These look solid. They look like they are attached correctly. They look like they will actually give some, you know, some protection, some structure, like this right here. Looks great. Super on point. It's always a tackle of like getting an organic body into very hard surface armor, like very structured and rigid armor, is very tricky to balance and keep everything like organic feeling. I think you did a good job with that though. Let's see. So I dig the design. I like the fur. Fur is fun. It's one of my favorite things. Failed learning experience? Nah, there's no failed learning experience. Yeah, remember, you always start from experience. You never start from zero. You know? There's a lot to like here. So the fact that the clouds kind of separate your object and your subject from the surroundings really works in your favor. I would say to start taking this to the next level, figure out how you want to light this. So personally, I think you have a really good front light, especially whenever you have armor. A front light's pretty safe. It's a pretty safe bet, meaning that our eyes as the viewer should be the light source. You can think of it like, as you look at the piece, your eyes are like Supermaning light. And that's a great way to get started because it's going to allow you to really start finding more of your forms. Hard work, man, it's been working through. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, 100%. Even taking this on as a subject, like, hell, I'd have to work for quite a few weeks to get some of the design elements nailed down. You know what I mean? Like, this is not easy. This is not an easy piece. Because you have armor, on top of clothes, on top of fur, on top of like accoutrement, weapons, one grafted into the body, a dagger, a split dagger. You have the kind of padded pant look with hard surface, with draping cloth, with like, man, oh man, this is one of those that like it comes across my desk and like I'm like, okay, this will look cool, but God, this is gonna be a bear. And what you have so far is brilliant. I think this is like we said with Brent, I think this is the best work you've posted up on the server. Yeah, I've already seen growth insofar as like the structure of the form. Like this arm looks so good. We're literally going to use this arm as the structure of how we light the whole rest of the piece. Okay. So what you have here is perfect because it keeps in the darker edges. Then you have the front light. Our eyeballs are the light source, you know, that we have right here. So literally, I'm just going to paint for a second. And as I paint, I want you to start noticing something. Yeah, the silhouette is bang on, but watch this. Literally the only thing I'm doing is I'm reinforcing the strong silhouette you already have. I'm just using the dark color. I'm using a black. I'm coming in and I'm giving the shapes a little bit more breathing room. I'm giving the shadows a little bit of place to where they can hang out for a minute. And you'll notice I'm not actually changing anything. I'm not changing anything. I will do. It's a little bit of white right here. And following these forms you have already established, and giving them room to play. Just kind of darkening around. And places where it's going to be the most in shadow, like tucked under. You see what I mean? Like tucked under here. We're going to make it a little bit darker, you know. Same thing here. If it's tucked under, if anything's tucked, we're going to come in and get some darker darks on it. Right? Same thing here. That's getting tucked. It's getting tucked. That's tucked. These are tucked. Have some fun here if we're going to get a front light. A little bit. So embrace that shape you got. You got some good shapes going, so we're going to structure those a little bit. We're just going to refine the edges a little. Because really, a nice sharp edge is literally going to build so much confidence as far as how the piece feels, but also working within the piece. You're making more, the harsher the edge, the more it's decisive. And the more decisions you make, you know. Yeah. This is, I mean, this thing's a banger. It's a great work. Like I said, like, this is the best work you've posted on the server. I can tell that the courses are going great. It's a lot to learn, and do not be afraid to rewatch even the basic stuff. It's funny, I will go back every once in a while and I will rewatch like the Trent Kanuga like intro to digital painting stuff. I watch that stuff still. Because the way beginning lessons kind of dissect things is very palpable, and it's something you can always come back to and always understand, and at different levels. Like, if you take like my beginning landscape course, the goal of that course was, if you've never painted a landscape before, let me decipher some of this and let me make it structured that you can follow it. But it's also set up that, let's say you've painted 50 landscapes and you got it kind of under control, that if you were to go back and rewatch it, there's almost a subtext in those lessons to where you're like, oh wait, when he said that, and then you look at your piece and you're like, that's what it was. Like, that's how I wrote my Krita book. That's how, like, art tutorials like that are something you can always come back to. The good ones, at least. Because you're going to be in different places in your art journey, and you're going to listen with a different ear. You're gonna hear a piece of advice up front on your first or one or two times watching through it, and you're gonna be like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, I think I know what they mean. And then you're gonna come back a year and a half later, and that same piece of advice is going to ring true in a completely different way, because you have had enough experience and time under the gun, you know, just you're knocking out those 10,000 hours, that you're going to see it and you're going to feel it and you're going to be like, oh, that's what they meant. And you're going to be able to just skyrocket again, you know. Yeah. We made it last day. Okay, so yeah, that's, yeah, this is a banger. I mean, straight up. We're gonna add some of this here. Something like that there. And a little bit of a rim light. Just because we can, why not, right? But we're still following, you remember how I said at the beginning before I started doing a lot of this painting stuff? I was going to follow what you have here on the arm. So I'm literally painting this, like, I can even pick the values from the arm. And come in here. See what I mean? It just works. The way you have it structured already, it just works. Like, also, I would make this a little thicker up top. This is my personal preference. Just because if we're seeing kind of the top of the ear, you're going to want to see more of whatever this cartilage is. I can't remember what it's called. You want to see more of that and then less of the stuff under it, right? So we're going to just sharpen that up a little. But see what I mean? You already have such good shapes and such good progress that you're making that really it's just about like embracing the ideas and the edges and the motifs that you already have and bringing those out to fruition. Like really nailing them down. That way, when the viewer looks at your piece, they kind of know exactly what they're looking at. You have that clarity of shape. And don't worry about being too obvious. I know that's a big, and I was that way for a long time. Was like, I was worried about, well, if I put these weird hard edges right here for like the fur, that's a little like, I don't know, it feels a little trite, maybe a little obvious. Maybe there might be a more subtle way to do fur. Maybe there might be a more... And I want to say about 2 years ago, I really got away from that. And I was like, how can I make this more obvious? How can I make the furriest fur that ever furred? That way, when the viewer looks at it at a glance, they know exactly what they're looking at. You might worry that, oh, if I make everything too obvious, what would the interest be of looking at the image more than once or more than a long time? And I say there's two things to that. Number one, nothing. People's attention spans nowadays are not, they're not in a place that they were during like pre-Raphaelite. They will go and observe a painting and yes. That doesn't really exist. You have some people that do, God bless. We other creatives do. We like to look at technique. We like to look at that. But your average Joe that just bought a magic card and they get their magic card with Mert's Orc on it, they want to know what they're looking at. They want to know. So make it as ham-fistedly obvious as possible. And the second thing that ties into that is even when you are being like sledgehammer over the face, as obvious, point here, look here, neon signs, a percentage of the people looking still won't get it. You will feel like you're giving the most obvious expositional just nonsense. Like, here's the fur, look at the fur, here's some fur. And you might get some viewers that look at it, oh, what's that around his neck? Bro, like, I photo bashed fur onto it and made the thing, like, I can't be more obvious than that. You know what I mean? But it's going to happen. So I would always say err on the side of more deliberate, like graphical, quick reads rather than the nuance of getting into the nitty gritty. You can always go back and smudge out edges and add impasto and do all this other stuff. But I'm learning time and time again, my most impactful pieces that resonate with the most people are not the ones I'm the most proud of as an artist. As an artist, I want to get in the nitty gritty. I want to do the thing and the stroke and the smudge and the this and the that. And if you look at it from 9 feet away, it's photoreal. But if you look up close, it's real dirty and paint strokey. That's my jam. I love making those. I love looking at those. I love looking at other people making those. My art style, for whatever reason, gets more traction, at least at the high level, as far as like client work, people want to hire me, when the stuff is more obvious. And that's hard. It's hard to get there because you have to build up your fundamentals. You have to build up your structure. You have to build up shape and form and composition and stuff to really learn those rules to make things obvious. But if you start off obvious, you can then work backwards into the artsy fartsy stuff. So I would say Mert did an incredible job at making an orc. It was called Orc-Tober, and what do I see? This is an orc, and he's got a crazy hook hand, and he's got a knife. He's coming at me. He's got the pants. He's got the Skyrim armor. This is an orc, through and through. He's even put the wear and tear on the armor. Look at this. You can go hog wild with that. And here's a really fun trick. For armor, if you want, grab yourself some grunge brushes. Because what you can do, let me just get a little bit of this. Get a little bit of this. If you want wear and tear, baby, I got it for you. Here you go. Boom. Got this. Lower the opacity here. Yeah. Got some of that. Got some right here. Some right here. Some right here. Now you're differentiating between your materials. That cast metal effect, and then as a real artist, as well you should, you make it a new layer. You come over to a color dodge. You grab that white. You get yourself a nice, tasty airbrush. Gotta have the hook too. Hook's metal, baby. Here it is. You get the fun. You get the differentiation. That's the fun of it. This, honest and truly, this is the part of my art journey that I miss the most. It really is. Because at this point, I was just worried about making cool shit. And that's how it needs to be. This is unfiltered creation. And it's one of those things that a lot of people start getting caught up in. Well, how can I fix the proportions? Well, how can I fix the anatomy? And well, it seems like he might be off balance because the center of gravity in his torso, and if his back was tucked and he did this, and then the back, and then the center of gravity, and then his leg has to be out, and then he has to come over here. And then whenever he's over here, and the thing is, you start losing any semblance of what made the idea interesting. I'd say proportions should be the focus. He wants to learn and get better in his shapes. So I'm going to argue that if you get bogged down with things like exact proportion, it's going to take away the spark of why you wanted to do this in the first place. Because now, I'll just put it at my level, I can't think about what would look cool. That's almost like 80% into the piece. There is so much structure that I have to follow, whether that's the shapes or the actual dimensions of the piece, or what is the goal, what is the design language, what does this magic card do? Well, how can we tell that story? Well, how can we... It's all problem solving at a level that has almost nothing to do with making art. With the dexterity of actually putting a brush to a canvas, to a stylus, to a screen. This is the time that I miss the most. because I just wanted to do it, man. Let me take a crack at it. Well, sure, I could come back and fix that. And, I might look back a year from now and be like, whoa, man, I've come a long way. But there is a point in your art journey, there is a point in your art career, whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, to where that is also diminishing returns. I can look back on stuff that I did 3 or 4 years ago and be like, yeah, that's about right. I'd change this, I'd change that, but yeah, that's about what you're going to get. But Mert is at this perfect spot that instead of feeling the pressure of trying to get out of this spot, I would say hang out in this spot for as long as you can. Get the tutorials, watch the tutorials, put them into action, draw stuff you're interested in. Doesn't matter if it sells or not, I don't care. Because if your heart is in it, that's the thing that is the first thing to go away. Creativity is a weird beast because the thing that brought you to the dance, the unbridled fun of creation, actually goes away. It leaves. It's not a sour grapes thing. The joy of creating for me now is problem solving. Can I use my wherewithal, my years of experience, my juxtaposition, my eyeballs that I can study Renaissance art, or I can study League of Legends art. I can study all these different types, and I can do all of them in my style, pretty, in my opinion, respectfully. Not probably great, but okay enough that it could be on a cover, it could be on a CD, it could be on a... Yeah, I know how to make an image. Sure. I know what to look for and what's going to make the client happy, and I can do that. That's not a cocky thing. It's like I just have done the job so long. It's like if somebody's been a chef for 20 years, I'm pretty sure they know how to make a decent meal. They just know what it takes. They got a little protein on there, they got some spice, they got this, and you cook it this way and you do that. But where's the fun? Where is that juice? Where's the... Ooh, I got an idea. Where does that go? But right now, Mert, you're in it, buddy. You're in it. It's the most infectious, rad time, because every piece you come and you start doing is going to get better and better and better and better and better. It's just going to happen. You cannot help but improve. And it's not because, well, we all start and we all suck and then we get better. No, it's you're doing the thing. If exercise was easy enough that we could read a magazine and be in shape, there would be no gym memberships. Do you know what I mean? Doing the thing begets the thing. It gets you the result. Art is one of those few deals that you can read about all day, you can study, you can even take lessons. But until you're making a thing that you want to make, it is all for naught. And that might be, as an art instructor, other art instructors might get mad at me for saying that. Because we do rely on trying to teach fundamentals and proportion and, 3-point perspective and why would you use this and this camera lens and this type of angle, and there's minutia to it. In storytelling and color theory, what does this color represent? Well, red is a power color, and there's that. But I argue that each time you get further down that hole, it's like the portrait of Dorian Gray. You're figuring that part out, but this is starting to dwindle. That unbridled creativity is starting to go away. Because now you're starting to problem solve. And I would say creating and editing is problem solving. It's that part of the brain. They usually do not happen at the same time. Normally you have to create, you're in creative mode, and then you come back and fix it in your editing mode. Does that make sense? If I make a YouTube video, I have to make raw footage first. I have to be yapping into the stuff, making my points or lack thereof. And then I have to go and edit the footage. This is the same thing. It's good to want to improve, to learn those fundamentals, to be able to utilize them and confidently be able to solve problems. But where I think you should really embrace stuff is just make rad shit. Just make cool stuff. I always say go make cool art. And I'm not lying. Go do it. Go make fun stuff. Go make cool stuff. Go make stuff that even if your friends and family saw it, they might be embarrassed for you. Who cares? Dance in the rain a little bit. You know what I'm saying? That's what this is. And hopefully, I'm hoping that stuff like Orc-Tober, or stuff that I'm about to announce what the next one is a way that we can study, we can look, we can get the cause and effect, the fundamentals, those foundational pieces. But I'm hoping, and what you all proved here, is you can make some cool shit. Like, that's just real. Like, let me, come on now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's pretty dope. Let me bring up some of these. Like, look at this, man. Look at this. It's pretty dope, right? We even got one more left. But like, look, it's just dope. I mean, that stuff has not existed before. You know? But overall, Mert, hope gave you a little bit of technical stuff. Like, hey, the lighting's good, the shapes are good, keep it up. But more so the inspiration stuff, because I think at this point, that's still a fire to burn. You know what I mean? Like, you still got coals in that chamber. So keep that, keep it, and keep posting, go through the lessons, go through the Proco stuff. You're going to notice stuff on your own. You're going to make adaptations. You're going to make changes, and it's going to be rad. You know what I mean? Like, there's nowhere to go but up, because the world is your oyster. Bam. You know what I mean? So everybody, huge round of applause for Mert, crushing it with his orc piece. Let me go ahead. Let me save this as... But outstanding work, brother. You are improving at an insane rate. You and Brent are like speed runners in the Olympics. Unbelievable. And once this saves, that brings us to the last piece of the day, of the session. Come on, Photoshop. What you doing? What you doing? There you go. Okay, cool. All right, last piece right here. Pentitent Tangent. There we go. Get the old right here, 2, 31, 15. Cool. Right, here we go. Master study through and through. So there are two versions. There's a work in progress version right here, and then the more kind of final value version right here. We're going to use the final value version. And I also do have the master study right here, the actual piece. I think this is from one of the recent, I know it's from a Black Library book, but it's part of the recent Warhammer 40,000 art book. So that's what we're going to look at. So look right here. So this one is going to be a little more technical because this is a one-to-one. You know, this is a more of the one-to-one study. And then here's what I'm going to do. New. Here is, here's the original. Then we have Penitent Tangents here. I probably did, actually. So what we're gonna do let me go ahead, mode, canvas, grayscale. Master Mantis, hello. Welcome just in time. So I got it time stamped in here. Book is Art of Warhammer 40,000. Alexander Mokov. Absolutely. So, the number one thing I will say is outstanding work. We are comparing values right now. Yeah. No, it's in fact, I think I like your value differentiation a little more than the thing you're studying. Now the thing is, you know, the Alexander's piece is like done and it's like painted and all that. It's all done. So really my stuff comes down to texturing. Like, how can we add that little bit of noise without messing up the values and stuff? You know, grunge brushes and all that type of stuff. We could do that. I'm trying to think. It's funny. Since this is Warhammer 40,000, and I've been fortunate enough to work with Cubicle 7 and Warhammer Games Workshop, I'm going to come at this almost like a mini painting for a few things. Because what you're going to see, and this is actually feedback I was given directly from Games Workshop. So if you want the authentic experience, I'll give you what was told to me. Edge highlighting. Oil paint over this and might ruin it. Oh no! Oh, that's right. Yeah, no. You right before we get into this, okay, you bring up a great point because you posted. All right, here we go. So I will get your actual words here, okay? Started this as a value study, as a piece from Warhammer 40,000 art book, but Wes's stream inspired me to have a go at painting over it with the Rebel oils. Unfortunately, I ran out of time to actually get to that part, so I got a bit carried away with the rendering details and the value sketch and clip. My main queries for feedback are, how can I improve my values? Number 2, did I go overboard with rendering details when I will probably be painting over a lot of this anyway? Number 3, any tips for first timer with Rebel on how I can do an oil paint over to improve what I have already laid out? I'll probably post the result in the oil painting when it's done. So I will go over kind of the overarching things, not that I would fix, because really I think you're spot on, like genuinely, and like I said, I think I like your values better than the actual paintings. But I will show you the way I would approach finishing this in Rebel. And it might be something that people will be like, oh, I never thought about that, which is always the fun stuff. But yeah, original images attached. And I know Rick gave some very good feedback as well. So I'm going to try not to repeat what Rick said, not to step on toes or anything. But really what we can look at, if we look at the values, and this is a thing that just takes time. If we have infinite time, you know, we never get hungry, we never have to sleep, you would nail this for sure. But on Warhammer pieces specifically, what's interesting to look at is what's called edge highlighting. Now this comes from mini painting, to where any sort of edge literally gets the bristle brush and they highlight with that. It's kind of the Games Workshop style, or I can't remember what they call it with the painting. There's a certain painter that works at Games Workshop, that once you see that edge highlight, you're like, oh, that's so-and-so's work. So if you look like up here, so we got like edges. There you go. Anything that is an edge, as you can see, is getting light. Anything that's an edge is getting light. Now, since the light source is coming from up kind of top here, we can tell that by the density, the amount and intensity of the light that we have here, which you nailed, by the way. You nailed right here. Nope. Anything that is catching that, even, and you've been nailing it. Look at that stuff right over here. Light right here, light around here, light around here. So you've already got it figured out. It's just time. That's really all this comes down to, is time. I can assure you that Alexander probably spent upwards of 200 to 300 hours. Maybe faster now that they've done, you know, book cover after book cover and they have a process down. But like, the devil's in the details. All these subtle shifts, all the subtle, and this is stuff that you're already nailing. You're already nailing. So, I mean, I think you're spot on with doing the values, and like, I wouldn't even worry about like, oh no, I over rendered, so now I won't be able to make this look painterly. Bevel most edges so they catch more light and stand out more. Exactly. So like, the edge highlight's a real thing. And it, you know, I think of it from mini painting, but like, that's sort of where it comes from. But overall, I think this is ready to take into Rebel. And in fact, I need to make sure that I'm not showing any NDA work. Give me just one moment. I'm going to open Rebel, and I'm going to open your piece. And we are going to work in Rebel. And I'm going to show you exactly how I would do this. I'm going to do it in grayscale. But, that open, I need, I'm on Rebel. Okay, cool. Come back here. So, what I would do, even before I opened Rebel, I'm not going to do it right now just because it's so, like, it would take way too long. What I would do is I would actually do a color overlay in Clip Studio or wherever you were rendering. Go ahead and lock your colors in by doing a color overlay layer or an overlay layer with colors on it, or a hard light, soft light, however you prefer to add colors over top of grayscale. And so let's say, yeah, I'll do this very ugly and very quickly. So let's say we have this right here. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to make a new, boom. I'm going to turn this to, let's just do overlay. This. Okay. I'm going to just come in here and we're just kind of going to get this in here. Okay. So this is basically just adding color. Okay. So like I said, this is not exactly how I would do it, but like, I mean, this is pretty close. You know, I wouldn't really use Rebel to put the colors on top. I would use what you're kind of more used to as far as your painting software. because I know you said you're fairly new to Rebel. Rebel is kind of a bear. But let's say, okay, we have something like this. We have some here, a little bit of something here. That, let me get that. Let me get kind of the off-white, slightly red stuff here. There, let me actually move that a little more brown and yellow. Because that way there's going to be like that. Then there's like the kind of military green, as it were. So we're going to kind of come in through here. Right. So like I said, this is not exactly right, but going to at least get us started. That way you can kind of see what's what with it, right? Let me do this one. This. Okay. So here we go. We have some colors. Okay. Like I said, not my best work, but you know, good enough that we can kind of see what's going on here. We'll just add a little bit of random kind of brownish stuff, gunky, you know, may not even match, but it gives us a nice kind of worn, weathered look. Right? So, okay, here we go. We have something like this. I'm going to move the reference out of the way. Because the way I would approach turning this into a painting, like if you want to do Rebel paint this, a lot of people would say, okay, go ahead and make a new layer. And, you know, pick whatever brush you want. Make sure your impasto's up or whatever. Go ahead and pick this. And then you can just start like painting, you know, you just start painting and doing things like this. I would not personally do that. What I would do, because you've worked so hard on your values, you're going to work so hard on your colors. I would do this. I'm going to merge layers. Grab a brush you're interested in. So let's say the bristle rake. And you think, oh, I'm going to grab this. Cool. And then I'm going to come and I'm going to start painting. Don't paint. Use the blender tool. Everything's going to be here. So if you want cool looking painterly strokes, the blender tool grabs everything and smudges it using the brush tip that you have selected. And also, it adds impasto. So you're not color picking. The brush color picks for you. See this? I don't have to pick anything. This is what I would do. Just pick any of these that look cool, and anywhere you want bristly brushes. Wouldn't you know it? See, we have some impasto there. We have some of this here. And all of that dirt and grit that we talked about earlier is being introduced not by, blending modes or any of that stuff. It's literally being introduced by the brush itself. You see what I mean? So you've done all the rendering. You've done the hard part. Now you can play around with your edges. That would be my advice, because you can get some gorgeous painterly, smudgy goodness without having to do it from scratch. And this makes it way more fun. It rewards the work you already put in. Do you know what I mean? Like, you haven't wasted a step. And what's great is you won't ruin anything. Because all you have to do, you bring in your painting into Rebel, whatever step it's on, and duplicate the layer. And you want to duplicate the layer because the way in Rebel the brush engine works, and I can actually speak with authority on this, because we did a lot of tests on this, it's taking all of the pixel density of that layer. There is an option to where you can treat a new layer as taking the information from the layers underneath, but I still prefer making a duplicate of exactly the layer that you want to do this on. So in this piece, I would do the whole piece. Just open the picture, then on a new layer, duplicate, put that picture up top again. Then you can go hog wild with your blender brush. Pick different things, do different sizes, different brush strokes. And then whatever you don't like, you can erase off the top layer. You can almost mask it away and keep all of the other stuff. That gives you the most control possible. And there's literally no way you can mess it up, because if it doesn't look right or it doesn't look good, delete the top layer and you're back to your Clip Studio highly rendered. You know what I mean? Like, we do have benefits as digital artists. And being non-destructive on our work is definitely one of them. We can make whatever change we want and then we just undo it, or we just delete it. You know what I mean? But yes, so painting over it is an absolute nightmare. Don't ever paint over it. Literally, if I make something for a client and they say it's too rendered and they like my more brushy stuff, I literally just open either Art Rage or Rebel, duplicate the layer, add the fancy brushwork, and be like, how does that look? And they're like, whoa, that's amazing. I mean, it's, I guess, a kept secret, but like, not really. But that blender tool in Rebel is a powerhouse. It is a juggernaut. In fact, I think, pound for me, besides stuff like nanopixel, that might be the best thing about Rebel, is you can turn any painting, no matter how structured, and like, I could go and take a piece of Riot League of Legends splash art, which, by the way, they have it set to where you are not allowed to show brushstrokes. It's against the Riot, like, their design document says no brushstrokes. No visible brushstrokes are allowed. None. They're very serious about that. But you can easily take a League of Legends image like that, come in here, change your canvas up, as far as like the overlay that it's going to give you, and then get a blender brush and make it look like an oil painting within a few hours. It's stunning. It changes the landscape. It used to be you would use Corel Painter, or you would use something like the Photoshop mixer brush, and you would stamp the actual image and then introduce some of the paint strokes on top of it. Or you would use it as a traced image. I think it was called like photo mode or something in Corel Painter, to where literally every brush stroke was just like putting the information on the canvas from the photo, like one to one, but it was doing it with a brushstroke texture on it. This is that times infinity. You give it literally the painting. You have the painting open in Rebel. You make that new layer or duplicate layer. You blender brush it. You cannot, like, if I did not tell you that I came in and did the blender brush, there is no way on earth you would know that this wasn't just fully, like, painted by hand. There's no way. So like that's the ticket. That's the good stuff. That's the thing that will really kind of free you up. Work as much as you want in any other paint program. Do all of your rendering and all of your colors and all that in Photoshop or Clip or Krita or whatever you feel more comfortable in. But if you want to bring in a little bit of that special sauce that Rebel has, go with the blender brush. Pick your oils, pick your knife edge. Like, check this out. Let me get a knife scraper. We're still on blender mode, right? Let's say I want to scrape this out. There is no way you could tell that this wasn't planned to be there. There's no way. Look at that. Look at that. That's crazy. It doesn't take away from the main event. It doesn't take away from our focal point. We keep this pretty tightly rendered. You can even come in at the minutia level. These are all big strokes. Let's do some small strokes. Basically, I'm just painting in the direction that I want the paint stroke to go. I'm going to keep the metal kind of untouched on the oil painting side. Like, look at this. And these are all the built-in brushes, by the way. Like, these aren't special fancy brushes. This is... it's just what comes stock with Rebel. You know, if you get kind of carried away or something's too much or whatever, you can always taper it back. No problem. You see what I mean? Now you're getting some of this texture in here. Now you're getting some of those paint strokes. Now you're getting some of that visual information the way you can go. And of course, you can always come in and grab yourself, you know, the paint and blend, color pick, add in some more info, take away some info, color pick, whatever you want to do. You can always paint that way. But like, that's it, man. That would be my advice. Stunning work on it. Absolute banger. I'm gonna save this out as boom, boom, boom. Let me go. Where was my... there we go. All right, we're saved out. But yeah, outstanding job. No real notes. I mean, as far as like a master study is concerned, I mean, all it takes is time. And you are crushing it. Like, I have no... yeah, genuinely, I don't have any notes as far as like the values and stuff. Because like to me, they match. I mean, I think you got it bang on. You know, and really kind of the beauty of these is just the rendering style. This is a very hard rendering style to do. It just is. That's why they make the big bucks, and they have black library book covers, and they work at Games Workshop, a lot of them. Like they are in-house artists. They go to work, they clock in, and all they do is paint. That's it. So they have time. You know. Shredding them before. Yeah, you bet. Oh, it's so much fun. Once you go in with that blender brush, like, mwah, you can do some magic. And it is an absolute blast. All right. So that brings us. Let me timestamp this. Let me timestamp it. Two 58 20. This brings us to the end of our Orc-Tober review stream. A huge round of applause to everybody. And yeah, Pentitent Tangent, Master Mantis himself, fantastic work. It was a pleasure to kind of bring that into Rebel, have some fun. But overall, yeah, values on point, master study on point, unlock, got it. Like, no notes. But thank you all so much for participating in Orc-Tober. It's a new month. And I don't know if we're going to do monthly things. Like, okay, this one's good for a month. Or maybe it might help, you know, having a deadline or whatever. But I do have something planned here. It is a new challenge. It is a new challenge. And let me, while I'm here... let me do... okay, let me bring up a few things here, and then we will do a reveal. So yes, I think that we needed a new... we needed a new deal. We needed a new challenge. Where is my... There it is. Okay, cool. I was like, where the hell is my... Okay. I think we need a new challenge. And it's something that I hark on a lot. There's a way we can practice this. And it's going to cover quite a few things. This is what I would consider fundamentals. This is something that has stood the test of time, is absolutely, without question, some of the best design I've ever seen, the best storytelling that I've ever seen, and it doesn't even use color. There was a movie director by the name of Akira Kurosawa, and he has made some of the best movies of all time. In fact, the best Akira Kurosawa movies, for my money, are all in black and white. So what we are going to do for November is Akira Kurosawa Studies. Yojimbo, Sanjuro, The Seven Samurai, Kagemusha, Ran, Throne of Blood, The Hidden Fortress. These movies are perfect. You always hear about, oh, a movie so pretty, every frame is a painting. For Akira Kurosawa, every frame is a painting. The amount we can learn about value, about composition, about structure, about the emotion of the composition, how design elements work, about shapes. is all at its absolute pinnacle with Kurosawa. This seems like it would be an easy deal. Oh, we're just going to be painting in black and white. We're just going to be using grayscale. That's all we're going to be doing. This will... This is one of those things like, you know how... You know, you don't need to... If you want to go have a workout, you don't need to put like 300 pounds on the bench press. If you do it right, you can get a blasted workout with like 20-pound dumbbells. That's what this is. This is going to blitz you. You have no clue until you get into this. You're going to be like, why can I not do this? I'm going to do that too. Why can't I figure this out? It's a black and white picture. Hell, you can even try to trace over it. It still won't. It's going to be a bear. It sounds like it's going to be easy. It looks like it's going to be easy. But my thing, and I'm going to post this in the Discord, pick any Akira Kurosawa film. You can even use Ran. Ran is very, very good. The thing is, it's in color. In fact, let me see. Some of the best, most beautiful compositions in the history of film. And the way his color works is just stupid good. But I'm going to keep us locked into black and white. Simply because I think the beauty and the majesty of it is in the black and white. It is perfectly lit. It is perfectly shot. There are leading lines everywhere. Like, yeah, you can have a field day. But go ahead, and if you search Akira Kurosawa and go to the images tab, anything that pops up that is from an Akira Kurosawa movie is fair game. Any scene, any moment, and there's tons of them. Any action, it could just be standing, it could be talking, doesn't matter. But give us your best Akira Kurosawa studies. Rashomon for the light, heck yeah. So like, there's so much to dig into, and what I hope this really does is really build an appreciation for Kurosawa, not as a filmmaker, but as an artist, like as a genuine person that understands the theory of light versus dark, not only in the themes of the movies, but in seriously like what's in front of the screen. Maybe we use Ghost of Tsushima and Yote in its Kurosawa mode. Yeah, you could do that. Because I have confidence, and I've seen the Kurosawa modes in those. They do the right thing. They crunch the blacks a little bit. They highlight the whites. They blow it out. I would say yeah. The only thing you might run into is the composition might not be as tight as what Kurosawa has. Because like I could talk 3 hours about just this picture. The one we have up right now. In fact, this might be the one I study. It's next level stuff. But I'm hoping you're excited about that because it's going to be a whammy. It's going to be a big one. It's next level, but I hope you had fun. I appreciate all of your entries for Orc-Tober. Even if you didn't enter something into Orc-Tober and you're just watching this as a review, appreciate you very much. If you haven't seen the newest YouTube video where I talk about Affinity and Canva and all that stuff, it's got some heated debates in the comments, which is fine. You know, it's cool. Passionate opinions bring about passionate opinions, and that's how that works. So go check that one out if you haven't. I think we're almost at 4,000 views on it in less than 24 hours. So, it's doing some work, especially because my other videos do like 200 in 24 hours. So this one struck a nerve or had, was a voice of the voiceless or whatever you want to call it. Like it worked out well. But, I'm doing this, heck yeah. So the deadline date, good call. Let's say let's say November 30th. That's a Sunday. That way we can do a stream. But if I do the stream, or actually let's say November 2nd or December 2nd. Because that's the Tuesday. So really that week, 30th, the 1st, the 2nd, somewhere around there. Because if we're going to do the art stream on Wednesday, that way, you know, but I wouldn't worry so much about it. Just if you want it talked about on stream, yeah, definitely by, you know, the 1st or the 2nd should be fine. I'll put up the real time on the Discord, but yeah, I would say November 2nd by midnight. You know, just give us a. Yeah, of course, Ivan. Take care, brother. But yeah, we'll put that up there. So yeah, mark that calendar. You have about a month, maybe a little less. So the November thing is going to be Akira Kurosawa. Pick your favorite Kurosawa film or any stills or anything. And then you can make a master study of it. There's a ton to learn. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, I would say really focus on one. If you wanted to do quite a few of them as like thumbnail sketches, you could. But I would say really dig in and focus on one. Because that's where a lot of the learning will come from. And I'm going to do one as well. And I'll even talk about mine on stream. I did not talk about my work on stream. You guys saw it being made. I might make my Kurosawa one offline. I don't know. But we'll figure it out. But that is it for me. I'm about to go get little one from daycare. We'll be streaming tomorrow. I do have some emails I have to send. I have some potential job stuff I have to get lined up. But I will be live for maybe a few hours tomorrow. This one went 3 hours, which is good, longer than I thought it would. But you know, we got it taken care of. We got that going. So I appreciate you all very much. Of course, if you need any G Fuel, if you go to gfuel.com and use the coupon code WESTG, you save 20% off the stuff. I got my G Fuel right here, literally just sitting here. Very, very good. They have some new flavors out and new formulas and all that good stuff. But that's it for me. I will see you guys soon. So Friday we can maybe try some Helldivers, but I have something really special planned on Friday. Something really cool. I have a cool toy that I want to show off on stream, and I got it finally working. So we're gonna look at that this Friday. But then who knows? Who knows what the next few weeks are gonna look like and all that. So that is my time. You guys have been outstanding. Thank you so much for the support. And we will see you tomorrow for an art stream of what? I think you'll be surprised. But it should be a good, fun academic exercise that I'll get to answer questions along the way. That's it. We'll see ya. All right, guys. Peace.